Good morning. Happy Wednesday morning. I hope you're doing well. This morning we have an exciting blank screen in front of us, and that's because we're working on the UI system. And specifically, we're going to be working on the timeline, which is a line across the top of the UI, and it shows where the player is in the time span of the game across all 11,000 years. It shows them where they are currently. It shows them where the other end of their time travel wormhole is. It shows them where events are on the timeline, and it shows them where different artifacts that they use different artifacts that they can use to time travel. It shows them where those artifacts live on the timeline as well. So there's like 3 different layers of information displayed on the timeline, and it's confusing, but it's kind of necessary to understand how to navigate the temporal space of the game. So I thought up an idea we're going to try out as an experiment to have different blocks of the timeline actually blocked out, and to show those kind of time spans a little bit more clearly. So we'll see if it's working. I kind of started roughing some of this out earlier, and I've just been working on some of the code for it. So we'll see if this is actually going to work. So there's one of the blocks. So you can see we've got the timeline running here. There's like a hash there representing an event or a moment, and this should be like the block of time that represents the what do I want to say? It represents how long an artifact kind of has existed in time between when it was created and when it was collected by the player. And that has kind of important rules for later on. So that's what we're working on. Let's see if this is actually going to work at all. So, so like I said, I've done some work here. And I'm just gonna wire up the last few things, and then we'll take a run through the game, through the first couple of minutes of it until we collect an artifact, and then hopefully that artifact will get its time span displayed. So let's see what happens here. So timeline system is where all of this kind of stuff sits, and our artifact time span is this object, and it needs to get assigned to that slot. So we've done that. I don't think I have any other missing artifacts right now, missing behaviors, whatever. So that's all set. I can turn this one off now because the script will be turning that on. And let's see what happens. So we have the obligatory 10 to 13 seconds of domain reloading and loading up the system. There's a lot of things to manage in this scene. I really need to clean it all up. That's going to be a lot of work, and I'd rather kind of get things stable and functioning before I go back and try to clean them up a little bit. Okay, here we go. We are into the game now. Okay, you're going to be hearing in the background some very light static noise. That's actually just the wind in the game. And we've got some pretty noisy building. And yeah, that really goes on too long. It's okay. Okay, so we've got some twinkling noise happening. That's because there's an artifact that is visible, and the twinkling noise is continuing because there's actually another artifact in the scene. It's right here. So now we've got that. So it's nice to hear that the sound system is generally working. But yeah, there is that wind background noise. It sounds just like static right now. Okay. So we have time traveled, and we're going to collect our first artifact. It's right here. This is our first artifact. Okay, so there's a few things to notice in the game. Let's go to the game view. It's a little bit easier to see. We have this really colorful bar here, which I'm kind of proud of, the 80s rainbow colors of this. And this is going between now, which is where the player is right now, which is 200 years before present. And this is the other end of the timeline, which is our present day. It's where we start the game. So we can see that span. We can see, it should say the artifact name here. So we've got to change that in code. But we can see its time span of its life. We can see when it's picked up, or sorry, when it's picked up really should be over here though. So this is rotated incorrectly. That's okay. So let's choose a word for it. So we can see that it starts at 962 years before present. It was collected at 200 years before present. So this really should be rotated 180 degrees to run up to there. And that kind of shows us the difference between time spans, which becomes important later on in the game. So I got to change a little piece of code. That artifact name thing should have been hanging out because it should have been made. Well, maybe not. I think it was okay actually. Right. So many good things to know here. Okay, so I'm just going to go in and change the code about when that artifact time span flips around here. So let's take a look and see where we do that. So if the artifact collected position is less than the artifact date position, it should be 270. Let's switch those and just see what happens. So if artifact date's position is less than the artifact's collected position, then flip it around so that it points the right direction. Okay, everything else worked fine. This anchored position, let me see, this is my X and my Y. I'm just going to change this to, you'll see in a minute. I think that's the right way for that. What else were we doing? I think we're okay. Let's see what happens here. Oh yeah, there was a thing to add. We'll get there once this compiles. Yeah. This has a UI item visibility script on it, which is what fades it in and out when you fade in and out the menu. We're going to copy this component. And we're going to put it down on this object right here. It has all of its new values in there. Let's see. This needs to rerun its pre-populate. Well, I was hoping that children visibilities thing would end up there, but maybe not. We'll figure this out. Say fade children. Okay. Now let's rerun this. Ah, there we go. It got it. Okay, picked all that up. Okay, that's all set. Now we're going to turn this one off. There's one more thing to do, which is the artifact name. So we need to go in and grab the artifact name. So here's the artifact. This is where it's sending data. And it needs to send one more thing, which is the active object behavior dot name, object name. That needs to get sent over to our timeline event manager. Calls this set object on timeline function, which needs to take one more parameter. Oh, it's cold, so I'm bad at typing. Send name. Okay, now let's add one more object in here. Public, oh goodness. Okay, what are we doing? Oh, text mesh pro is already in here. That's great. TMP text is artifact time span name. Game's not still running, is it? No. Okay, that's good. Sound error again. Fine. Okay. We're almost there. We set this active. Okay. Artifact timespan name dot text equals sent name. There we go. Okay, so that should now name the artifact. Ooh, it's cold. It's the middle of the week. Errors all over the place. So let's recompile this. All right. Clear that out, see if we get that error again. I'm gonna keep an eye on this one. And let's go through and rebuild again. So it's only, you know, like a minute of gameplay that we have to replay. I could save it at the moment right when we collect the artifact, but I'm afraid that that's going to knock over the house of cards that is the rest of the game. So we're just going to keep it at this for a moment. Oh, I broke my sound system. That's nice. And we have to go collect this other object. There we go. And that's rebuilding really fast. So the sound is unsatisfying. Gotta work on that. Got a problem there with sound again. Oh well. Okay. Here's our first artifact. Oh, that made it even worse. Oh yeah, because it's not set to a reference of an object. Silly me. Okay, we can fix this. This text goes right there. Okay. Now we're set. Let's try this one again. Okay, here we go. More sounds. The audio's all over the place. this up. At least there is some audio now in the game. And now I'm just gonna, I spent yesterday actually composing some music, which is a bit hilarious. So I'll be working on the music system, maybe next week. I also have a subscription to a sound effects library. Okay, we're getting there. Every time, just a little better. A little better. This is upside down. Because all I did was rotate the whole object and this is parented to it. So we're going to have to work on that. But it has the name of the object, which is Tower Chest Coin, which isn't really the best. But it does give you the whole time span of the object here. I think what I'd like to do is link that object's time span. I would like to link that, or have that fade in once the, what do I want to say? I'd like to have that fade in once the object has a name and we get the date and its collection date and all that kind of stuff on it. But that's really hilarious that that's upside down. It's going to be upside down most of the time. We should set some logic though to make it less upside down. I'm going to make that bar a little bit narrower and then this bar a little bit narrower, and so we don't quite have so much overlapping stuff. But in principle that works. So this is showing you the time span of the players, kind of where they can travel between now and later. And then this is also showing you the time span of this object's existence. And if these overlap, see right now they don't, they run right up to each other. But if these overlap, you can't actually use whatever object you have selected here to time travel, because you would be duplicating the object. Because of lore from the game, it's kind of an excuse for a rule, which I hope is interesting. But anyway, this is all kind of hard to visualize, so I'm hoping that if they overlap, it'll be a little bit easier to see which objects you can use and which you can't for time travel. So we're getting there. So I'm going to change the width on these objects. It's sad, but the thing I'm kind of most proud of, let's make this a 5. Why not? I love this gradient on the time span object for the player. And the gradient's great because all it is a texture that has 2 pixels. It's a 2-pixel texture, and one end of the texture is one color and 1 pixel is another color. And because a texture that is kind of spread across a large space in 3D, it gets a sort of linear interpolation between one side of the texture and the other. Normally you don't want that, that's a blurry texture, but for making gradients like the sky background and things like that, it's great because you just can make beautiful gradients with like 2 pixels. It's really cool. Okay. So that was, so this one is now a 10, and I'm going to go in and change another thing. So its position here, it's going to go down to 5. Yep. Okay. So when they do overlap, the artifact's time span is going to show up behind the player's time span. So you'll have some overlap there, and hopefully it'll be a little clearer that they're overlapping. I've got to do something about the position of that text though, because here's where it's flipping. Let me think about this just for a minute, because instead of flipping it, let's just move it. Let's just offset it. So let's think about how far down it needs to be. So artifact time span dot Anchored position equals new vector 2. And we're going to say that is the, how far are we going to offset that? It's going to be the arc collected position. Which is a float, that's fine. Arc collected position. And I don't even need this else. Oops. Okay, let's see what happens. See if I'm getting my logic correct. So what I'm trying to do, instead of flip the timeline thing around, instead I'm just trying to offset it. Let's see what happens. So here we go again. Let's load up the domain. I remember looking up this invalid seek position error and never really getting to the bottom of it. I think it might come because I'm running too much audio at the same time. Like I'm not getting it, that error, when I'm slow and just rebuild one at a time. So that suggests to me that if I'm slamming it with too much of the same audio, it has a problem, which that's reasonable. Okay, so for example, in this timeline right now, all we have is the now situated because we haven't time traveled at all. So there's no artifacts shown, there's nothing, and that's good. Definitely going to work on the timing of that audio. Oh, we got an invalid seek position sent again. Oh well, we'll work on that later. Okay. Well, that didn't work out. We now have the name of the artifact, which is the hilariously named Tower Chest Coin. We have that positioned, but it needs to be over here, so it got shifted the wrong way. Let's take a look at this. So its position was -50, and it needed to be, I don't even know where that -50 came from. Oh, I do know where that came from. It really needs to be positioned here. Okay. That's really where I want it. And also its position on the Y should be nudged up just a bit. To 6, I guess. Okay. All right. I'm going to look and see where that 962 -240. I'm just trying to figure out where these numbers are getting. Artifact span 191. Boy, where am I even getting that number from? Hmm. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. 191. its position is its length. That makes sense. All right, let's give that a shot. Its position is going to be artifact timespan. Ugh. There we go. It's going to be the distance, and it's going to be positioned at 6. That seemed better. Okay. Let's see what happens if we do that. Of course, having done this whole thing, this whole artifact time span, may not actually be helpful for the player. But we'll find out. Okay, here we go again. Well, I didn't get that audio error yet. But I'll get that error here when we scale out. Yeah. Okay. I have to figure out what's wrong with that. Hey, that's what we wanted. There we go. So we have the name of the coin, which is the tower test coin, which is not a great name. Only thing I want to do is I want to try to nudge that down a little bit. Oop, not that way. I'm going to put the name of the artifact like down at 30. So that'll be something we can set later. But there it is. That's the tower coin's lifespan. That's where we are as a player. That all seems pretty nice. I'm just gonna nudge a couple of other things here because I still think this line is too thick. So width needs to be like 8. That might be better. And its position on 6 is still a good position, I think. All right. Okay, so that's just a little aesthetic thing, but I really do want to have this fade in after we've pressed this button. So I need to figure out if I can do a connection between pressing that button and getting this to fade in. So I have to think about that for a moment. It always puts that up there though, so maybe we just leave it. Maybe we just do that, that's fine. Because it'll only be needed the first time the player encounters the artifact. So that's alright. So what are we doing? So because all those changes we just made are going to disappear when we press stop. So I need to remember that I made this 8 pixels width, 8 units width, and that is set, its position is set down to 30. Alright. So the text, it's not at 36, it's at 30. The artifact span's width is now 8. Okay. Well, congratulations to us. We created that new system. Let's jump in and do a little bit of audio work here. Really quickly. Tiny little bit. Let's change the duration on how long that audio plays for really short build objects. So, rebel roaming. If the send duration is equal to 0, the build duration equals 1. If the build duration is less than 1, this is setting the fade in, fade out. And then, okay, we're going to let it calculate that, so that's really quick. And if it's less than 1, let's make the build duration actually be 2 seconds long. Just so that shorter builds produce a little bit longer audio. Okay, so we're kind of overwriting some of our work we're doing here, but not really. Okay. I have no idea where that one audio error is coming from. I've only got about 10 minutes left on the stream before I have to go in and join the family for the morning routine. So we've got that in place. I'm very pleased that we got these timespan things. They're still ugly. I think I've got to really work on that UI a bit. It's still kind of not super intelligible, but that's okay, I guess. One thing we should see, I wonder where is that? That's coming from. Wrong behavior 35. Invalid seek position. I don't know. Let's play through until we get some more artifacts, because I want to see what the UI does when we flip between artifacts. So let's do a little playthrough here. Let it run up. Wind effect. There's some muted audio groups, that's fine. The environment effects are quite small. Okay, here's something I'm going to change. I'm going to make... Okay, you're going to hear quite a lot of noise now. And the roar of the ocean. And then here comes the roar of the wind. And now I'm going to peel this whole thing down until it's barely audible. Actually, I'm going to pull the wind down a bit. Here we go. Just leave them at that. That's good. Okay, that's going to be saved. That's fine. All right, let's grab this one. Oh, the day's getting on here. In game. I'm excited to get working in the music system. It'll be just nice to add. So that rebuild effect, sound effect, now does last longer. Is it weird that it lasts as long as it does, though? I don't know. Still got that error. Okay, there's our coin. Let's say it's hidden. Let's open our portal. Okay, it's good to see that that part of the UI faded out. That's what we want. Okay, so we've time traveled again. So if we open our inventory, now we can see our time travel span runs from here to here. But why isn't our coin? That's a worry for me. We should be seeing our coin's lifespan, which is also just happens to be here to here. The artifact time span is the right length. 190, it's in the right position. Has it just not faded in correctly? Yeah, there it is. So something stopped that from fading in correctly. I guess because it was made active. Okay, so that's a bit of logic we've got to work on. And this is appearing on top of our timeline. We don't want that, but I can see why that's happening. Because it appears way down the stack here. So I think I need to take these two guys and put them down further on the stack. Let's find out. Okay, so that's brought it up. That's better. We've got this kind of doubled up text. So I need to put in some logic that removes the artifacts end date if the two things are on top of each other. That's going to be a little bit more subtle and fiddly, so I'll work with that logic a little bit later. But yeah, this is looking ugly, but might be getting the point across here. So that's good. Thanks. Okay. So it was nice to see that that faded out. Let's do some rebuilding. Maybe I just need to come up with a different sound effect completely for rebuilding Rebel. Because that's getting irritating. Maybe I need to think outside the box. It's nice to see the ghosts coming in now that the sun's going down. Ooh, that shouldn't have happened. Huh. That's interesting. I wonder why that disappeared. No, I still only got the one error. So here's something from last time. that, look, so last time our roof didn't appear and I was trying to figure out why that happened. Look, there's our roof. So that's the thing I fixed yesterday. Very happy to do that. Do some rebuilding. I want to get to the point where we have a lot of artifacts in our inventory to switch between. It's nice to have the audio kind of roughed in, though, because, like I said, now I've really seen how irritating this rebuild effect is. It's nice to now at least have an opportunity to rethink that. Oh yeah. Oops. Okay. All right. Nice. There's our roofs. There's our objects. That's great. We jump into our inventory. Yeah. I gotta figure out a way to get that timeline thing to fade in. Because I think every time we click on an object, it won't fade it back in. So, like, for example, this object was collected now, and it started life just back then in 1136. So that's nice. What happens if we switch objects? Yeah, that's what we wanted. The time span changed. That's good. Okay, so that's really nice to see. So let's hit the go to other end button here. And here's the strange thing that's happening. Very good. Now we're going to get a lot of artifacts to deal with. And once again, we're going to have to fade this one in. Yeah, that's definitely a thing to work on. Let's see, this one, it was collected at 200 before present, and it's also from 200 before present, so it's never going to have a timeline, which is a really good thing to see. So let's open the artifact, though. Now this object gives us its time span. This object gives us its time span. This is great. That object's time span. This one's going to be really long. Look at that. And this one's going to be amazing. Except it shouldn't. It should go all the way up to now. So I got to figure out. See, it's got its collected date. Why is that not any longer than it? 1, 2, 3. All the other ones, they're fine. This one can't figure it out. Okay, well, that's a good thing to know. No time span outside, time span inside. That's good. That's a good thing to see. Well, I'm going to call that relative success. So with that bit of relative success, let's end today's stream. It's just nice to see all of this. And maybe by Friday I'll have some music or something else that I can procrastinate on before fixing these really difficult little subtle things as well. So it's a good, successful day, and hopefully we'll see you on Friday. But until then, bye for now.